Let us be called by bell and bird, by stars and streams, by the beat of our hearts. Let us be called together in covenant. Let us be called back to our true self, the co-arising web of existence which constitutes us and of which each of us is the whole entire web. Today, with the bell sounding at Deer Park Monastery in California and the black-capped chickadee singing in many backyards, let us especially remember our covenant to affirm and promote the seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
Our opening hymn is number 175, We Celebrate the Web of Life. Please sing along with our own congregation when we were in person.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Meredith Garman, minister of Community Unitarian Universalist Congregation at White Plains, New York, where I am coming to you live from the sanctuary this morning.
Good morning. I'm Adam Kent, our congregation's music director, live from my home in Manhattan.
And I'm Nicole Turrigan, member of the Board of Trustees and our worship committee, serving as worship associate today and coming to you from my home in Tarrytown.
And all of us are on land formerly of the Lenape Nation.
Tracy Brenneman, our director of religious education, is supporting online religious education classes for our children and youth in another Zoom room right now.
Our liberal faith makes 5 commitments to ongoing learning, to freedom, to justice, to institution building, and to hope.
The mission of this congregation is to nurture each other in our spiritual journeys, foster compassion and understanding within and beyond our community, and engage in service to transform ourselves and our world.
For your weekly almanac, it's the middle of winter. Groundhogs Punxsutawney Phil and Staten Island Chuck were of divergent opinion this week. Phil indicated 6 more weeks of winter, while Chuck predicted an early spring. Today is the 7th Sunday of winter, 6 more to go, marmot meteorology notwithstanding. Wednesday was Imbolc, the pagan celebration of the midway point between the winter solstice and the vernal equinox. In Old Irish, Imbolc means in the belly, referring to the pregnancy of the ewes. The moon was new on Tuesday morning, kicking off Lunar New Year. The snow moon is now waxing crescent. The pace of day lengthening continues to accelerate, as daylight today at White Plains latitude is longer than yesterday by 2 minutes, 21 seconds.
We extend a very special welcome to our visitors. We're honored to have you with us. If you're new here today, please do introduce yourselves in our chat.
You will find a link to the order of service on our website at cuucwp.org. Our website also offers information to help keep us connected, as well as a donate button.
If you have a joy, sorrow, or milestone you'd like to share, please enter it into the chats. Please make the first word either joy, sorrow, or milestone so that at the end of the prayer, I'll know which chat entries are meant for me to speak. I now invite you to light a chalice or candle at home along with me as I light our chalice here. On the 7th Sunday of the season, we're dedicating our chalice to the 7th principle of our faith, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Join me now in chalice lighting words from Walter Royal Jones. Mindful of truth, ever exceeding our knowledge, and community ever exceeding our practice, reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit in the unending quest for wisdom and love. We will have an Our Congregation message this morning from Joy Scantleberry, board member of the Martin Luther King Jr. Institute for Nonviolence, which is our Share the Plate recipient for February. And then our choir is up. They will sing Rockin' Robin, and they are followed by today's UU Minute. Which church is the Dedham Church?
My name is Joy Scantleberry, and I am on the board of the Westchester Martin Luther King Jr. Institute for Nonviolence. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you. On behalf of the MLK board, thank you very much for your continued support. Unitarianism has played a special part in Dr. King's philosophy. In fact, your minister, Meredith Garman, has pointed out that the concept of beloved community was first proposed by Josiah Royce, an early 20th century philosopher and Unitarian minister. Reverend Royce was a member of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, where Dr. King learned about Reverend Royce's concept of a beloved community. Your congregation has played a special role in the MLK Institute, and not just in the financial support you have given us over the years. First of all, you have offered us your beautiful sanctuary for our annual awards dinners. In fact, several members attend regularly to support us, as well as the people and institutions we honor for working to fulfill Dr. King's dream. In addition, Jeff Tomlinson and Jim Cobb have both participated in the Westchester Coalition for Police Reform, a group which the MLK Institute helped to found and continues to coordinate. Furthermore, Amy Nathan and Barbara Mayer have taken part in our beloved community dinners, which invite recently incarcerated women to share meals and community conversations. And of course, Barbara has been on the board for 19 years and co-founded the MLK Freedom Library, of which she is still co-chair. Your support will help us continue working with the community by bringing people together who work for racial justice and provide leadership for stronger collaboration and organization. Please consider joining us as volunteers. Both the MLK Institute and CUUC are motivated by the certainty that, as Dr. King said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Thank you.
Tweedly-deedly-dee, 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 tweet, 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 tweet. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a-bopping and a-singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweedly-dee. Go rockin' Robin. 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Tweet, tweedledee. Every little swallow, every chickadee, every little bird in the tall oak tree, the wise old owl, the big fat crow, flapping their wings, singing go bird go. Rockin' Robin, tweet, 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 rockin' Robin, tweet, tweedledee. Go rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Tweet, tweedledee. A pretty little raven at the bird bandstand taught him how to do the bop, and it was grand. They started going steady, and bless my soul, he out-bopped the buzzard and the oriole. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a-bopping and a-singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweedledee. Go rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Tweet, tweedledee, tweedledee-dee. Tweedledee-dee, tweedledee-dee. Tweedledee-dee, tweedledee-dee. Tweedledee-dee, tweet, 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 tweet. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a-bopping and a-singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweedledee. Go rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Tweet, tweedledee. Go rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Tweet, tweedledee, tweedledee-dee. Tweedledee-dee, tweedledee-dee. Tweedledee-dee, tweedledee-dee. Tweedledee-dee, tweet, 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 tweet.
In 1818, a pitched battle broke out in Dedham, Massachusetts, 10 miles southwest of the center of Boston. The Reverend Joshua Bates had resigned his ministry to become president of Middlebury College. Some months later, after visits from a number of prospective ministers, the parish met and voted 77 to 29 to call Alvin Lamson to be the new minister and the town's publicly subsidized Protestant teacher of piety, religion, and morality. Later the same day, the church met and voted 18 to 14 to reject Alvin Lamson. The church, however, was bound by the parish vote, unless they split from the parish, so they did. The town owned the church real estate, so the church conservatives, a majority of the church, though a minority of the parish, began meeting in a member's house as they planned for construction of a new church building. The conservatives took with them church records, financial assets, including cash, bonds, promissory notes, leases, and accounts, and portable physical assets, including the communion silver. The assets were the property of the church, they reasoned, and since the conservatives constituted the majority of the church, the assets belonged to them. If you're thinking, well, that's a legal suit begging to happen, you are correctamundo. Deacon Eliphalet Baker of the liberal minority of the church membership sued Deacon Samuel Fales of the Orthodox camp for the return of all the church property. The liberals maintained that the assets belonged to the parish, and as the parish majority was staying put, the assets belonged to them. The case, Baker versus Fales, also known as the Dedham case, came to trial in 1820 February. The jury deliberated all night about which church is the Dedham church. What did they say? Be sure to catch our next thrilling episode. Of all the desires that buffet, stretch, twist, and burn the human heart, all the cravings, longings, urges, yearnings, appetites, and lusts, perhaps the one desire most worth nurturing is the desire to make something beautiful. Mary Oliver writes that maybe the desire to make something beautiful is the peace of God that is inside each of us. She wrote that line in a poem called Blue Horses, which was inspired by a painting, The Tower of Blue Horses, by German artist Franz Marc. The preliminary sketch for that work is on the left, and the final version on the right. Oliver used the first one as the cover of her 2014 book of poems, Blue Horses. Franz Marc painted both versions in 1913. A year later, World War I began, and Marc was drafted into the German army. He died in the Battle of Verdun. A century later, Mary Oliver wrote this, which I offer as our invocation. I step into the painting of the 4 blue horses. I am not even surprised that I can do this. One of the horses walks toward me. His blue nose noses me lightly. I put my arm over his blue mane, not holding on, just commingling. He allows me my pleasure. Franz Marc died a young man, shrapnel in his brain. I would rather die than explain to the blue horses what war is. They would either faint in horror or simply find it impossible to believe. I do not know how to thank you, Franz Marc. Maybe our world will grow kinder eventually. Maybe the desire to make something beautiful is the peace of God that is inside each of us. Now all 4 horses have come closer, are bending their faces toward me, as if they have secrets to tell. I don't expect them to speak, and they don't. If being so beautiful isn't enough, what could they possibly say? Now please join with the Unitarian Universalists of Santa Barbara, our sung invocation, We Would Be One.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. On our way, as one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free. Oh, make us free.
And now let us pray. Spirits of life and love, in which we live and move and have our being. You have many names, and on this earth there are sacred spaces, defiled and pristine, known and unknown, common places and rare wild places, side streets, landfills, broken down neighborhoods, and little streams covered with asphalt and forgotten. This is our home, and it is all holy ground. May we be turned toward the good path of respect and generosity. May we rise as stewards like the Gwich'in people who live up on the tundra that's shared by the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Their area remains under threat of pipelines, oil rigs, and roads that could mar the earth for decades, disrupt caribou calving and their great migration, and change a people's way of life forever. Our hearts are with all people, for they are we, and we are they. Thus, we are with and are the peoples of the Pacific archipelago of Kiribati as COVID has reached their communities. Even with all precautions, transmission is high. We are with and are the peoples of the Kingdom of Tonga, hit by volcano and tsunami, exhausted and frustrated, and afraid that COVID will enter their archipelago that has, for the most part, avoided the pandemic so far. And moreover, climate modeling shows the capital city of Tonga will suffer a sea level rise, causing loss of 25% of buildings, 11% of roads, 16% of water, 29% of power infrastructure. We are with and are the peoples of Afghanistan, where decades of war and oppression, disruption of economy, and degradation of a fragile, dry mountain land has set the stage for 3.2 million children to be acutely malnourished in the upcoming months. May we give pause to all our acquisitive desires to own, possess, and consume. May our grabbing and taking cease, the race to access whatever we want without consideration of effects on people around the world and the environment. May we learn to use lightly and respect the earth, for all its resources and people are gifts for all on earth. The African philosophy Ubuntu teaches that we are human only through the humanity of others. May our steps be strong and our footing secure as we walk together upon sacred land and live together at the edge of sacred waters. And so we ask of ourselves the mindful intention to delight in what is good, to confront what is cruel, to heal what is broken. Amen. We observe now 60 seconds of silence.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we precious day.
It's time again for our eco-spiritual practice for this month, brought to you by Community UU's Environmental Practices Social Justice Team. The Vending Machine God. There's an old idea that God is like a vending machine. Insert prayers, get stuff. The prosperity gospel teaches that wealth is a sign of God's favor, that a luxurious lifestyle indicates righteous piety, and that the poor deserve to be poor. Advertisers saturate us with the message that we'll find happiness and life satisfaction if only we purchase whatever they are selling. It's the secular version of the prosperity gospel. So even if you've left theism behind, there's a lingering residue of the vending machine God in the pervasive belief that deep satisfaction will come from the next purchase. Parts of culture regard God as a vending machine, but almost all of culture regards the vending machine as God and promotes endless pursuit of the next possession, experience, or situation to the exclusion of cultivating contentment in simple pleasures and grounding ourselves in the natural world. We chase illusions, oblivious to the utterly beautiful earth on which we live. But the earth is calling to us. It says, let go, unlearn, come home. Eco-spiritual practices for this month include a bookshelf rethink. Are there any self-help or supposedly spiritual books on your shelf that assess value as wealth or encourage consumption? A simplicity practice to try with your home altar, and an exercise of charting your own journey with the concepts of consumerism and materialism. For the details on these, as well as group activities for your eco-spiritual group, see the post at cucmatters.org. The link is in your e-communitarian.
Our hymn is number 194, Faith is a Forest. please sing along with Elena Hemingway and musicians of Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Bremerton, Washington.
Faith is a forest in which doubts play and hide. Insight can hear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life, may this thread I weave strengthen commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Seeds of both meek and strong are scattered in it. Dignity shines undimmed by bigotry's glare. Web of life, may this thread I weave help me bear witness to all I believe. Justice be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Fortune and famine ride the swift winds of chance. Sorrow and pleasure seem united in dance. Web of life, may this thread I weave mingle compassion with all I believe. Mercy be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say.
Desire. It's our theme of the month. It was our February theme of the month in February 2019, and also our theme for February 2016. It comes around every 3 years. If you were with us 6 years ago or 3 years ago, this is a chance to come back around to some of those questions about desire and see how your relationship with desire may have evolved over time. Desire, says Ram Dass, is the creator. Desire is the destroyer. Desire is the universe. Desire is the creator. It's what drives us to create something beautiful, maybe. And that desire to create something beautiful might be, as Mary Oliver suggests, the peace of God that is inside each of us. Insofar as God is a name we give to the creative forces that made the universe, it's our desire to create that puts us in the image of God. Desire is the creator. Desire is also the destroyer. Destruction is not always a bad thing. Sometimes an old building needs to be torn down, or an old system or ideological structure, a way of thinking needs to be torn down to clear space for a new creativity. white supremacy, the prison industrial complex, rape culture that normalizes and excuses sexual violence against women, the ongoing forms of colonialism that extend political, economic, and cultural domination over peoples. These are structures in need of some destroying. Desire. In this case, desire for respect, equality, and justice, desire for wholesome relationships that don't exploit or oppress is the destroyer. But desire is also a destroyer in a less fortunate way. Addictive desires, desires to acquire, consume, possess, desires to dominate others. These are forces that can destroy the sweetness and beauty of life for yourself and others. And then Ram Dass says, desire is the universe. This means, I take it, that we can see reality through the lens of what we want, that we do see reality through the lens of what we want. What do you want to hold on to? What do you want to get rid of? Your whole reality can be defined by these two concerns. Here's my stuff: car, house, home entertainment system, clothes, computer, smartphone. I want to hold on to that, protect it, make sure it isn't stolen, make sure it doesn't break or wear out. And here are things I don't like: sore joints, an aching tooth, maybe annoying telemarketers, my neighbor's politics, making judgments about that's good and that's bad, and then trying to hold on to what you've decided is good, and trying to fix or get rid of what you've decided is bad can consume your whole day. Your whole universe is nothing but things judged good, things judged bad, and your efforts to protect the one and exile the other. That's how desire defines your universe. In Robert Aitken's little book of parables, Zen Master Raven, there's one episode in which the fictional Zen Master Raven acknowledges a desire common to actual ravens. She says, I have this urge to prey on newborn lambs. And asked how she deals with it, Zen Master Raven explains, I'd be disoriented without it. Disoriented, she says. Yes, our desires orient us. The question is, as Humpty Dumpty said to Alice in a rather different context, which is to be master? Do you have your desires, or do your desires have you? Which is the master? It takes some time and some practice to master desire, and the project of mastering desire is never finished, never complete. There are various approaches to mastering desire. You could study the Stoic philosophers and work on taking their teachings to heart, internalizing that way of thinking. The two best known Stoic philosophers were Epictetus, who was a Greek slave in the 1st and 2nd centuries, and Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman emperor in the 2nd century. So Stoicism has had its appeal up and down the social spectrum. Epictetus is available in two works of notes taken by his student, one called Discourses and the other called Enchiridion. Marcus Aurelius is available to us in a work called Meditations, which is a journal of his reflections. The Stoics offer a lot of thinking about taming desires, cultivating virtue, training ourselves to let go of what's beyond our control and maintain an inner calm. In recent years, there's been quite a revival of interest in the Stoics. It grew out of a general renewed interest in virtue ethics among philosophers in the late 20th century and has been popularized in the 21st century through a best-selling book, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, and the Stoicism Today blog, Stoicon events, podcasts such as Justin Vakula's Stoic Solutions podcast, Simon Drew's The Practical Stoic podcast, and Stephen Carafit's The Sunday Stoic. Stoic meetups are popular throughout the US, Europe, and Australia. So That's one route. A somewhat different approach to mastering desire is taken by the Amish, who are very careful and deliberate about new devices and gizmos, making sure that they would actually make life better and not detract from community bond formation. They make strong community ties to help the members channel desire into community strengthening ways. And then there's Zen Training, which in meditation recognizes the self as fluid and unbounded, not fixed and not distinct. Like a hurricane, the self is always changing and has no definite edge, no essence. Out of the atmospheric flow, certain conditions came together. And for a little while were coherent enough. I didn't understand that. And were coherent enough to have a name, and then dissipated again back into the atmosphere from which they came. When we release clinging to the illusion of a distinct, permanent self, then its desires weaken their grip. Whatever strategy you take, it'll take a while to develop, but not as much time as you'll otherwise spend in pursuit of one desire after another. As philosopher William Irvine has written, if we like what the Zen Buddhists have to say about mastering desire, we might want to spend hours in silent meditation. If we like what the Amish say, we might want to join an Amish community if they will have us. If we like what the Stoic philosophers say, we might want to spend time studying their writings. But having said this, I should add that the time and effort we spend trying to master desire are probably considerably less than the time and effort we will expend if we instead capitulate to our desires and spend our days, as so many people do, working incessantly to fulfill whatever desires float into our head. One helpful entry point, I think, for mastering our desires, not repressing them or exiling them or, God forbid, not having them, but mastering them, harmonizing with them, is Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication. One of the key distinctions in Rosenberg's training is between a demand and a request. The distinction is not in how politely you ask or your tone of voice or what words you use. There's only one way to tell the difference between a demand and a request. And that's if the answer is no, are you upset? That's the idea I'll come back to after we have an interlude with Adam and Robert Schumann. Adam?
Thank you, Reverend Meredith. Desire as a font of creativity. All of this morning's solo piano music was composed by Robert Schumann or by the woman who would marry him, Clara Wieck. These works were composed during a period when the young lovers endured an enforced separation by Clara's father, a jealous, controlling gentleman who had been Robert's piano teacher. The three pieces I'm going to play now are from Robert's suite called Carnival. The first, Chiarina, is a portrait of young Clara, just 15 years old at the time. And the third is a portrait of Ernestine von Fricken, the woman Robert desired before desiring Clara. And in between, as if to mediate, is Robert's portrait of his friend and colleague, Frédéric Chopin.
We are looking at one of Marshall Rosenberg's key distinctions in his teachings of nonviolent communication. It's the distinction between demand and request. The distinction lies in whether you are upset if the answer is no. If you are upset, discombobulated, angered, annoyed, if reactivity is triggered when you don't get what you want, then it was a demand. There might be a little demand energy in your desire, or there might be a lot. When Stoics and Buddhists say that desirelessness is liberation, they're talking about desires with demand energy behind them. Whether you're demanding better service at a restaurant, demanding that traffic thin out, demanding that your spouse wash some dishes, or demanding that sun and sky provide some clear and warm weather. Demands become tyrants ruling our lives. Liberation deposes the tyrant. We still have requests of ourselves, of people around us, maybe, or the world. But if they aren't met, we can still be okay, still able to be calm, at peace, joyous. And when Stoics and Buddhists say that desire causes suffering, again, they're talking about demands. Sometimes we don't get what we want. Even when we do get what we want, Freud spoke of there being inevitably a residue of disappointment in it. There's a residual disappointment in even the most satisfying experience. Freud wrote, there is always something lacking for complete discharge and satisfaction. And he shifts from his German to a French phrase meaning always waiting for something which never came. So it's not just that sometimes we don't get what we want. In some sense, we never get what we want, not all of it. This fact is maybe not quite as mysterious or as sexual as Freud makes it out to be. Evolution simply built us to be organisms that keep ourselves alive in a world where dangers were always lurking. And that required finding ways to meet our physical needs and then always moving on to the next thing we can do to improve our safety, enhance our resources, and increase the survival chances of our offspring. So, no, we can't ever be completely satisfied unless we can come to see that residue of dissatisfaction as itself perfectly satisfactory. When we don't get what we want, if there was demand in that want, then we suffer. We are irritated, out of sorts, ruffled, maybe even enraged. We are one form or another of wretched. As Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck put it, there are two kinds of desires. There are demands, I have to have it, and preferences. Preferences are harmless. We can have as many as we want. Desire that demands to be satisfied is the problem. Unwholesome desires are fundamentally demands. Even if it's a desire for something that isn't good for you, it's the demand energy that makes it a problem for you. Without the demand energy, rationality can recognize that it's not good for you and let it go. And it's okay to have preferences. It's okay to prefer chocolate to strawberry ice cream. It's okay to put some energy into getting that which you prefer. It's okay to prefer being comfortable to being uncomfortable and to put some energy into that preference. But your energies will always need to be balanced. Energy here and now means you aren't putting it into something else now. Demand skews that balance. Demand siphons off way more of your energy than you would ever in an ideal setting of calm reflection have said was really what you wanted. You can't rationally and calmly discern where you want to put your energies if demand is driving you. Don't get rid of desires, just get rid of demand. Of course, that's easier said than done, but saying it, resolving it, is a beginning toward diminishing the tyranny of demand. That's liberation. That's the freedom to put your energies where you want to. You can put them toward this preference or that preference and towards something overarching that orders and prioritizes your preferences. What I've spoken of before as your great vow. Wholesome desires also include your great vow, the mission of your life, the great purpose you are dedicated to, the direction you point your life in, whether you make much progress toward it or not. The trick is not to bring demand to your great vow either. Your vow is not about outcomes. It is the overarching desire of your life, but not a demand. If it were a demand, it would be about outcomes. In fact, the degree to which your vow is about outcomes is the measure of the demand energy in it. Your life vow is not about outcome, but orientation. It's about pointing your life in a certain direction. And then just seeing where that takes you, where it takes the world. With a great vow, there's never a point at which you say, well, that's done, mission accomplished. You've pointed yourself in a direction, whether it's I vow to speak my truth, or I vow to embody true compassion, or I vow to live for the cause of social justice, or whatever your vow is. And then you just see where it takes you. Maybe some days it didn't seem like you were very compassionate or did much for justice, but you just keep yourself pointed that direction. The analogy I've used before is that it's like flying an airplane through thick clouds, very limited visibility, and you have no instruments except a compass. Your vow is that compass. It keeps you pointed east, say. And there's no question ever of arriving at east. There's nowhere to get to. There's just being headed that way. Moreover, you have no speedometer. On the path of vow, there's no such thing as a speedometer, so there's no way to know how fast you're going east. Desire, says Ram Dass, is the creator. Desire is the destroyer. Desire is the universe. Let me now give the more extended quotation. Ram Dass has said, "The first thing my Hindu teacher wrote on his slate in teaching me was the statement, desire is a trap, desirelessness is liberation, desire is the creator, desire is the destroyer, desire is the universe." As I hope you now see, the sort of desire that is a trap is outcome-focused demand. And liberation is a life oriented by our desires, pointed by them in the direction we want to go, but not dependent on outcome, moved, but not driven, laughing at every failure and at every success along the way, working, yet filled with appreciation, purposive, yet filled with gratitude, intentional, yet filled with joy. May it be so for all of us. May it be so. Amen.
Our closing hymn is number 151, I Wish I Knew How. Please sing along with the First Unitarian Church of Baltimore Choir.
Say
Now, please join Reverend Meredith for our chalice extinguishing words as you extinguish your chalice at home.
As we extinguish our chalices, please say with me the words on your screen. Every one of us is held in creation's hand, a part of the interdependent cosmic web. Therefore, strangers need not be enemies. No one is saved until we all, the whole of creation, are saved. The interconnected web of existence makes us what we are.
And gives us our light to shine.
All that is belongs to you, and you belong to all that is.
Do not forget even for a moment.
And go in peace.
Troubles that I've got too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. If we stick together, we can see it through. 'Cause you've got a friend in me. Yeah, you've got a friend in me. Now some other folks might be a little bit smarter than I am. Bigger, stronger too. Maybe, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. Just me and you, boy. And as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny. You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me.
The interconnected web of existence makes us what we are.
And gives us our light to shine.
All that is belongs to you, and you belong to all that is.
Do not forget even for a moment.
And go in peace.
Troubles that I've got too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. If we stick together, we can see it through. 'Cause you've got a friend in me. Yeah, you've got a friend in me. Now some other folks might be a little bit smarter than I am. Bigger, stronger too. Maybe, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. Just me and you, boy. And as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see